I've always been into the land speed record attempts. The guys in the 60s were, running cars they'd built in their sheds, testing these engines and going out and running these things on the salt flats, basically just pushing their limits. And it's that pioneering spirit of just using what you've got and doing what you can do. A lot of people think about it, but it's whether you actually go through with it. It started out as just an idea to simply build a bike and see how fast we could go. Basically, I build frames for a living. I'm a one-man frame builder in the workshop, although I have a lot of time to think about stuff. You got the tubes in your hands, you can't help thinking about the sort of potential in these things. The idea had been in my head for a while, I'd sort of been thinking about it. This sort of thing needs a fuck it point, like a tipping point. That point where you decide to jump off the top of that waterfall or something and you just have to commit to it. You have to see it through to the end. The land speed record for a push bike is set at about 167 miles an hour by a guy drafting a dragster on the salt flats at Bonneville. We don't have a dragster or the salt flats. This project isn't about setting records for us. It's about using our imagination, being resourceful, using my old car, using a bike I built and just sort of seeing how fast we can go. I wanted to keep the bike as normal as possible. One of the important things for me was that the bike was built from the same tubes and the same components that I use on my normal bikes that I build for customers. There was a few things we had to figure out. Obviously the geometry of the bike to keep it stable at those speeds. This is all new to me, it's been a total learning curve. And then the other thing obviously was the gearing. We had to figure the gearing out. The only sort of place I could think to call was Royce. So I picked up the phone and spoke to Cliff at Royce. For me to go there was a great day. It's really inspiring to see what you can do with your own bike business. Royce has been going since the 80s. We came up with a 104 tooth chainring. Essentially 104.13 should cruise at 60-70 mile an hour mark, and it should, if we can, get it up to near 100 mile an hour. It's all unknown to us. We're just going to have to sort of put it together and feel it out. Cliff later admitted to me that he only really took it on because when I phoned him up that we were doing it behind the Zephyr, that was a sort of selling point to Cliff. He's really been behind us on this project. He fully understands the spirit of what we're doing. The Zephyr being a saloon type car means there's not a huge area breaking the wind when we're drafting it, so we had to come up with a spoiler to attach to the back. My friend Stifler helped out. We stood there, looked at it, thought, well, we could maybe direct the air up over here and send it down our back to help us keep in the slipstream. Essentially, it's a shed strapped to the back of the car. I'm not an aerodynamics expert by a long, long way. This is kind of our best stab at it. Hopefully it'll stay on the back of the car and we'll all be safe. We found a 2 mile long airstrip. It was one of the only few places available to us in the UK. 2 miles is not that long to try and do what we want to do, and the tarmac's pretty rough. It's an old World War II runway and it's seen some use, but we got to make the most of what we got. Good friend of mine, Gav, from August Wheelworks, was driving the car. We'd only managed to get one test run in before we got onto the airstrip. Essentially we were just rebel running it around the local bypass up in Norwich as the sun was coming up, sort of first light. In the Zephyr it's bench seat and column change, so it takes a bit of getting used to. It's the first time he'd driven the car. There was a bit of to and froing to start. Gav pulled away a bit quick. I was just out slogging away in the wind. Eventually I found a bumper. Gav missed the gear. He went from third to second rather than third to fourth. The car just all of a sudden slowed up and nearly went into the back of him. Eventually we found ourselves, once the gear was turning, the bike just wanted to go, We could have definitely gone a lot faster that morning. But it's pretty sketchy doing it on the road. It's just better that we achieved what we wanted to achieve and sort of left it there. So we hit 60 mile an hour on that first test run. You can get pretty close to that just riding a regular road bike going down a hill. But to do it on the flat, riding fixed, pedalling, at 60 mile an hour feels pretty quick. If you then add in the fact that you're doing that 6 inches off the bumper of a car on an open road in a shed, it feels that much quicker again. Sweeping and prepping the track, like marking out the line, you know, you're sort of out there, you know what you're about to do, and the nerves start to set in a little bit, you know, you sort of, it is potentially fairly dangerous. You get doubts in your head. You're thinking, why am I doing this? You just feel really lonely and vulnerable. But as soon as you step on the bike, that's all gone, it's lost. You just get this mad moment where it doesn't matter what the hell happens. All you care about is focusing on that bumper, and you really don't give a shit. You'll just pedal that thing till the wheels come off. We kind of lost it a little bit. We had a few attempts where Gav was pulling away a bit too fast.
Easy, easy, easy. I'm calling it quits. Wait, can you hear me or not?
We were struggling with communication because it was so loud behind the car. He couldn't really hear me and I couldn't really hear him. So that, yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. I think there was a lot of anticipation and the sort of pressure was on a little bit. And then just the one time everything fell into place. Yeah, it all just dropped into place and we went for it. You just knew it was a good one, everything felt right. I was locked in the back of the car, the gear started to turn, I started to accelerate. Gav was flat out, he had his foot on the floor and the Zephyr was screaming. I was screaming, you know, just go, go, go. Just on that bumper, pedaling as hard as I could go. I was having to scream at Gav to go faster and faster and faster. And that was it. We'd hit 80 mile an hour. Essentially, I'd outrun my car and we'd run out of road. We went there to go as fast as we could, and I felt that we'd done that, and I was stoked. We've put ourselves out there, and we've got so much out of it. You know, I love some of the stuff we've had going on. You know, it's about kind of British engineering in a way. It's about backyard engineering as well. The fact that the car was built 5 miles down the road from where the bike was built 50 years apart, but we managed to bring them back together to do what we did. I think there's something, you know, really to be said about that. But knowing that ultimately it was the car on location that dictated our final speed, I wanted to know just how much the bike had in it.
Okay, when you're ready, Tom. Okay, 44, 45, 47, 48, 50, 52, 55, 60. Come on!
We got 102 miles an hour out of on the rollers, but I keep thinking about getting it back out on the runway now. A friend of mine called up who'd been involved in the project, knowing what I was thinking, saying, well, you know, I'm building the Capri at the moment, it's going to have the legs and it's there if you need it. I'm not finished with this at all. I've been bitten by it and yeah, it ain't over yet.